Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to week 3 of our fabulous English 235 class. Hopefully you're getting a chance to enjoy this Martin Luther King Jr. Day and celebrating in the way that feels best to you there. I'm celebrating by having a cold because I have small children and they're germ monsters and I love them very much. But hopefully you're getting a chance to at least soak in some of this beautiful sunshine after our gray and gloomy week last week. This week, we are moving ahead once again. Last week we finished writing definitions assignments. Most of the work in this class is building in nature. So the stuff that you're learning how to do in pieces will then help you create that big recommendation report at the end of the quarter. So writing definitions, this is something that's going to help you later on down the line. So we've cemented that skill set. We're doing great. It's going to come back again. So don't let it all just like flutter out. Sometimes that happens, but try and hang on to it if you can, at least until the end of the quarter and we get to the recommendation report. The next thing we're going to be working on is writing abstracts and newsletters, which is fun because these are two different forms of writing that involve summary and articulating big ideas in a much smaller space. So the abstract is just 100 words. You're going to be taking an article. That's a really interesting article, I think, about how our eyes are changing shapes based on how we use them. It's called Eyeing Myopia, and you are going to be reading about a study where these researchers take little baby chickens. They take chicks, and they obscure part of their eyes to see if their eye shape changes based on how they're being used. The premise is that in the past, when humans were outside more, when we were doing work that involved our whole range of vision, our eyes were a different shape. But now that most of our work involves very focused activities, looking at a screen or at paper, something small and close to us, that our eye shape is changing and we're becoming a little bit more myopic, which was really interesting. So you are going to be taking that whole article and summarizing it, just like I did. I took that whole article and summarized it in about a minute. You're going to be taking that whole article and summarizing it in about 100 words. And then we're going to be working on a newsletter where you're going to take an article that looks at different learning styles and different communication styles that you might encounter in the workplace, and talks about how we interact, how we effectively communicate with people who maybe receive information and process information differently than we do, which is a cool article. You're going to be taking pieces of that article, things that you think are most important in a workplace, and you'll be constructing a newsletter article about those ideas. This is something that you could be tapped to do in honestly any workplace. If you show that you are an effective writer and your company does a newsletter, chances are you could be tapped to write a newsletter article. I worked in engineering firms as an editor, and I got asked to do this. I've worked in a bunch of different places and ended up having to contribute to company newsletters. So who knows? You could get to do that too. How fun. So that's the assignment here. As always, all of the assignment information is provided for you in the assignment itself and in our modules folder as well. So if you go to our class, all our modules are helpful. You'll see that there are modules for each of our major assignments. Here is the one for the abstract and the newsletter. We've got a recorded lecture that talks about this assignment, goes through it in detail, as well as an article if you wanted to practice, totally optional. If you want to practice, there's an article about, is Google making us stupid? And you could practice writing an abstract about that. The premise of that article is that our way of learning and interacting with information is changing. Our attention spans tend to be getting shorter. Just because we have this easy access to information, we don't have to look through an entire book to find an answer. We can just type it into Google and the answer pops right up. So it's talking about how our data processing in our brains is maybe changing. Not that necessarily that's a bad thing, but that maybe a change is taking place. Because while our attention span may be shorter, we are processing a variety of information in a variety of different ways, and we're doing so at great speed, which is very interesting too, something that maybe we weren't so good at as a species earlier. So, interesting article that looks at how our brains are changing based on how we use them. Here is the actual written prompt. If you want to have that in like a Word document form, Here is a whole lovely recorded lecture about writing newsletter articles. So if you want to focus in on the newsletter, there's that. Here's the article that the newsletter is going to be based on. The differences are just a matter of style. That's what you're going to be using to create your own newsletter article. And here are some sample newsletters. Your newsletter doesn't need to be formatted and fancy and all of that. This just kind of gives you an idea of what a possible newsletter for a company might look like, so that you've got that in your repertoire should you ever be asked to use something like this. So you don't have to format it fancy, you don't have to include images. You can if you want to, but these are just different ways that people have created newsletters for companies in the past. So everything you need to be successful here in the modules tab. Follow that calendar to help you stay on top of deadlines and due dates. Work on budgeting your time. This is a 2-part assignment, so I would highly recommend not saving it for Sunday. Do be working on it through the week, because that's going to make your life so much better over the weekend. All that to say, I think that's everything you need. I hope that you enjoy the readings. They're really interesting, and I hope applicable to where we're heading into the workforce with those different types of styles of communication, and then just fun to know about ourselves and how our body works, that using our eyes can change how they're shaped. So fun things coming our way if you ever end up on Jeopardy. They could help you out, and they'll definitely help you with your assignments this week. All right, have a great week, guys. Make sure to watch those instructional videos in the modules tab and soak in some of this glorious sunshine before we get gloomy and gray again. Have a good one, guys.